It is a distinct pleasure to welcome this next guest to our show. We don't talk a lot of NASCAR, but it seems like when we do, we always get the former football coach's team. That'd be Kyle Busch, number 18 in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, champion last year. How you doing this morning, Kyle?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I cannot complain. This is the first question I gotta ask you because I can relate. You have a brother. Now, he's a little bit older, not like a twin like I had, but what's it like competing against your brother? I know last week you just clipped him by a spot up at Pocono, but what's it like being in NASCAR with a brother?
It's a challenge, that's for sure. Sometimes you race against all the rest of the competitors out there, and of course you want to beat them all, but when it comes down to a teammate or a brother, you kind of race them a little bit better. You give them a little bit more room, a little bit more respect, I guess, if you will, and you just try to make sure that the worst thing in the world is if you wreck a teammate or if you wreck a brother. So you just try to make sure that doesn't happen.
Now, that's got to happen, though, because I know I had a sibling rivalry with my twin. We would play each other. I would always try to target him, and I know he would target me, and he would say, I'm just trying to make it look good. You guys ever try to make it look good against each other? Because it's a story, even if it's not a story.
Back in the day when we were racing against each other in Legends cars, when we were growing up as kids coming up through the ranks, our dad told us to make it look good, so we raced each other hard and we swapped the lead back and forth a few times, and then it was kind of a given rule with 5 to go. It's every man for himself, and we would race hard and see who could win, But ever since then, getting to the Sprint Cup Series, what's crazy about it is I think I've had about 500 starts. I think my brother's about 700 starts, or maybe something like that, but we've only ever finished first and second one time, and that was last year at Sonoma. So it's kind of crazy that that only happened one time.
We're talking to Kyle Busch, NASCAR Sprint Cup champion, at least reigning NASCAR Sprint Cup champion, trying to repeat that task, which hasn't been done a lot. Richard Petty did it. Jimmy Johnson did it. Dale Earnhardt did it. You're currently sitting fourth in the standings, and you're going out to Watkins Glen this weekend. You got a delay last week because of the rain, I'm assuming, up at Pocono. It's kind of a short week in a sense. What do you got to do to pull yourself back up these standings in the NASCAR Sprint Cup?
Well, one thing that we look forward to is going to the road courses. I always tend to run well at the road courses, and we get a chance to run the Watkins Glen this weekend. And I get a chance to run a cool new paint scheme as well, too, with the Snickers Crisper brand, and we're looking forward to that. It's a new Snickers Crisper treat that's come out here the last few years, and, it's a neat little snack because with Samantha and I being as busy as we are and being on the road all the time and being in tight quarters, either on the airplane or in the motorhome or something like that, it gives us a neat opportunity to kind of share a little treat between one another and obviously, carry that on with trying to maintain a 14-month-old running around in the motorhome all the time.
Oh,
so,
wow.
It's a quick little treat for us, but we look forward to that with this weekend at Watkins Glen because it gives me a neat opportunity to turn right, turn left, and hopefully go after another win and get ourselves higher in the standings for the chase.
Yeah, you need to send some over this way. We eat breakfast at about 8:30 or so. Our show goes till noon. By about 11, I'm starving, and I need Snickers. So have them send them over my way.
There you go. We got it, man. Box your way. Got it.
I love that. Speaking of that, I always wonder, these races aren't short when you're going around the track, mostly left turns, but obviously in Watkins Glen, you're going right as well. How do you stay hydrated? How do you fuel yourself? I mean, if you don't eat for 3.5 hours, you're going to kind of pass out. What do you do?
Well, I guess the biggest thing is, making sure your hydration is good throughout the entire week. This being a short week, I've got shorter amount of time in order to get rehydrated, and that's kind of how you feel about it, too. When you're running a race, typically you'll lose around 8 pounds, which is 1 gallon of water. And so you've got to be able to try to get that 1 gallon back while still, living life, working out, doing the things that you're doing during the week in order to get back rehydrated for the weekend. And then once you get to Thursday, Friday, you're back toward in the race car and you're back sweating again. So you just feel like you're about recouped before you got to get back in the car and get back at it again. So, when you're running around in those races, sometimes 3.5 hours, whatever it might be, there's nothing better right now than a Snickers Crisper to grab as a treat because, it's a little bite-sized square that you can throw in your helmet and it'll fit in there and get you going to the next pit stop.
Nice. I need a box next to my mic starting next week, I think. Kyle Busch here joining us on Tiki and Tierney at CBS Sports Radio. Kyle, tell me what you think the state is of racing. I know the fandom, the people who came to the race last week was down a little bit. Is NASCAR going through a little bit of an ebb, or is this just something that was kind of cyclical?
Well, I actually think it's a little bit of everywhere, to be honest with you. You know, I feel like baseball stadiums are down a little bit until you get to the playoffs or until you get to the World Series. You know, I feel like football, you know, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, for instance, you know, those guys are really low on fan count. So, you know, it's not every team, but I think there's a lot of opportunities out there where all of us can learn from one another in order to how to grow our brands and grow our sports, get more people in the seats. But truthfully, to be honest with you, you know, we've got attendance numbers that are down across the board, and we've got TV numbers that are down across the board. And it's not just for NASCAR; it's for all sports in general. It's also for all of TV in general. Even listen to this, even reality TV's down a little bit. So,
No, thank goodness for that, right?
yeah, exactly. You know, people just are finding different opportunities or different avenues to go out there and enjoy life and enjoy themselves and enjoy their families. So, you know, it's not always that we're going to be able to fill the grandstands of 100,000 people plus every single week. You know, of course, too, it's money. You know, people don't always have the free spend that they used to have.
Yeah, and it's also what also helps is two things, I think. Excellence or rivalries. And I think excellence you kind of mastered a couple of weekends ago out at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway where you won the Brickyard 400, but you also won the Xfinity, and you won the poles in both of those. So that's kind of, I mean, it's historic in a way. That excitement that comes from excellence is a big thing, but also rivalries. How do you create rivalries in NASCAR? And I don't mean just wrecking a guy and then getting in a fight, but how do you create those rivalries? Because that's what sells sometimes.
Well, I think that is what creates rivalries, is wrecking a guy and getting in a fight. But then, you know, carrying on that rivalry over weekends or years or whatever it might be. I mean, obviously, a lot of guys, they tend not to really like each other, and we know that we're racing against the same guys each and every weekend. So we just pretty much have to go out there and not necessarily mind our P's and Q's, but you know, we've got big sponsors on the line that obviously, you know, want to see us go out there and do well and win races, but yet carry sort of a clean image as well too, and not really stir things up that much, you know. So it's obviously way better when you're on the outside looking in, seeing two other guys kind of go at it. It's a lot more fun to watch than when you're one of the guys that's involved in the rivalry.
Yeah, so I know you don't like your older brother Kurt, but who is your rival then?
I would say one of the biggest rivals that I have is probably either you know, Brad Keselowski or Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, they're ahead of you in the standings too, so it gives you incentive to go chase them, right?
That's right, no doubt. You know, we've had a good year. We've got 4 wins on the table, so we're actually tied with Brad Keselowski for 4 wins. And when the chase resets, we're going to be number 2 right now. So we've got to go out there and maybe get another win and get ahead of that Brad Keselowski guy.
Fantastic. You've also had 11 top 5 finishes. We're talking to Kyle Busch here on CBS Sports Radio. One last question for you, and this is pertinent because of my partner who is out and just had a baby, but he struggled, he and his wife, to have their first child, and I know that you and Samantha did as well. Tell us a little bit about your Bundle of Joy Fund and the Brad and the Kyle Busch Foundation.
Yeah, Samantha and I, we did struggle with being able to conceive and have our son Brexton, but you know, it's been awesome since. He's 14 months old now, but we had to go through IVF, and you know, IVF is just in vitro fertilization, and you know, people that struggle being able to have babies or conceive, obviously, you know, they go through any form of that they can in order to be able to get a baby. So Samantha and I, we did that. We share our Bundle of Joy Fund now with other families in the Charlotte area that we try to help out, and we've done 13 families so far that we've been able to help with, and that they've either got babies on the way, or actually we just had our first set of babies. They were twins that were born just a couple weeks ago with the Bundle of Joy Fund. So it's a neat little thing for us that we're able to help out other families here close to the Charlotte area where we live. And, you know, we obviously maybe look down the road to have another one, but who knows? We'll see. So congratulations to your partner there.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. Blessings to everybody, and good luck, Kyle, at the Cheez-It 355 at the Glen that's coming up this weekend. Tell Joe Gibbs that I grew up a huge Redskins fan, and good luck, man.
I do appreciate it. Thanks, man.